This is an Adventures in Middle-earth actual play using fantasy grounds. You can find session summaries, items and characters on Obsidian Portal, where our campaign is called In the Shadow of the Mountains. You can cross-reference this episode as 2947 Third Age, Kinstrife and Grim Tidings Episode 2. You'll find links to that and our other forms of media for our sessions, as well as an index of this episode in the description. This episode we're missing Amalfrida's player Stuart. It's almost a double-length episode as well, because I wanted to get all of our time in Stonyford into one episode. Sorry about that, I'll try to keep them a bit shorter when I can. Previously on. The Fellowship came across Beorning warriors slain by orcs. They'd been guarding a prisoner who escaped in that attack. On bearing the bad news to Beorn, the huge warrior tasked the group to track down the fugitive, Oderic, and bring him back for justice. The trail has led the party to Oderic's home, the small hamlet of Stonyford.
What I suggest is, for Neil's benefit, you guys go through your Fellowship phase activities for him. Neil, I know you wrote up Sigmar as third level, but kind of give a bit of thinking time to anything specific you may want to add. You can always add it into Obsidian Portal later. So, Chris, as you kind of kicked off, why don't you start, then Steve, go through what your guy did, and then we can probably get started. I think hopefully he'll be able to join, but I don't want to start too much later.
Okay, I won't read it out because it'll just be
Tracy's fine, yeah.
Tracy's fine. So basically, I spent a bit of time with my family in Traitors Hill, so my sister and her husband and kids. But then after a while, although I was really enjoying spending time just in the normality and sort of little tasks, I knew that I had to go to Rosgobel and report back to Radagast and his team of scholars as to what I've been doing since I was sent out into the wide world to actually experience firsthand what was going on and report back. So I knew how to report back. So I went back to Rosgobel, and obviously they knew I was coming because all the little birds and bees were twittering on Radagast's shoulder, telling them my every move. And I relayed what had happened, and he listened lots and lots and very avidly to the stories with loads and loads of questions, some of which I could understand and some of which I didn't understand at all, but almost days and days of questions. And then after I'd sort of reported back, I then had a bit of time to do my own research, lots of loose ends from what we'd seen and encountered. So I did a bit of research, and that's basically me leveling up to become a master scholar. And then I thought, I've got some real insights here. So I went running back to my colleagues and said, but look at this, and what about this? And I think it means this. And then I very quickly realised that was still pretty naive, and I hadn't cracked it all after a couple of months out in the big wide world. So that was a bit crushing, but then I sort of girded my loins and did some more of my own research, realised that the text I was using, I really had to speak the black speech to be able to understand them properly and also to get every nuance of the quotes rather than relying on other people's translations. So that was part of going up a level in Scholar. I went for dark knowledge, and part of that is that you gain the black speech. So that's where that fitted in. And I spent a bit of time.
But also, more worryingly, you gain 4 shadow points. So.
I was coming to that. I don't know if you've read Have you read Board of the Rings, any of you? By the Harvard Lampoon. Yeah.
There was a ZX Spectrum game of that, wasn't there?
Was that?
When I think is when Frodo gets the ring. Part of the symptoms from when he gets the ring is he's very constipated. I was going to put that in there as well. Hathas's dreams were filled with sort of dark worries, and he was very constipated. See if anyone got the reference. But anyhow, yes. So, sort of thinking about all these things as well. Hathas gets very good at solving riddles, and part of being a master scholar is you gain a bonus proficiency, which he took in solving riddles. So that's where that fits in. But as John said, I also gained 4 shadow points. So now my sleep is somewhat troubled by the hopelessness of our situation. We've got so much to do, and the enemy is so strong and sophisticated, and so many people helping him, etc. And then as a break from all this, because obviously it's quite mentally tiring, I would get up early in the mornings and go and train with Huan, my dog. And my Fellowship phase undertaking was to teach him to fight without command, so he can now sort of leap in and distract an opponent and hopefully give me an opportunity to smack him on the head and run away. I don't want to risk him because he's not just something to be squandered, but if he can help a little bit, that would be good. And very lastly, I realised that I needed to get a missile weapon because throwing the odd dagger isn't really contributing in a sort of artillery situations. So Hathis has got himself a bow and arrows. He's learned to do it a bit. He's not very good at it. Not very proud of it at all. It's very unscholarly, so he hides it and doesn't really admit it or get it out in public, but that's what he's done. So that was kind of the list of what he'd done in his fellowship. So it was just ticking off all the things that happened during the fellowship phase and going up a level, just slotting them into a narrative rather than just, oh yeah, I did these 4 things. And part of the reason why I wrote it up was because I was dying to know what other people had done, because we all fork, don't we, in our pathways at 3rd level. You choose, are you an agent or a spy? Are you a rider or a whatever they have, faux hammer, etc., in all the different classes. So I was quite intrigued as, what specialities that other people got. So I thought if I show you mine, you might show me yours.
Just to remind everyone around corruption, as it's kind of a fairly new concept, you're kind of okay. Well, you want to keep your corruption minimized because the higher it gets, the more at risk you are of going to the dark side type thing. So the main consequence of corruption initially would be if it rises above your wisdom, and fortunately Hathis is very wise, then you become miserable, which is massive penalties. You basically get disadvantage on attack rolls, and you've automatically failed charisma ability checks, which for Hathis would be catastrophic as your main negotiator. There are certain ways of countering that, but we won't cover that until we need to. And you can also have bouts of madness. So it kind of reflects what was happening to Frodo during the Lord of the Rings, I guess. That's the kind of way they're trying to manage it. It's quite well done. Anyway, thanks, Chris. Steve, do you want to go through yours?
Yeah, so Monin spent the winter at Woodland Hall, working the forge, making friends, and trying to make a friendship along with Ingmar, the elder, which I think Sigmar made far more of a friendship, so I think you unlocked him as a patron in the end. But you working the forge all through the winter then allowed him to use the fellowship undertaking of open the sanctuary, so got that sanctuary to ours now. And then for the actual level up, he went down the weapon master route, which meant that you could choose a weapon called Birthright, which starts off as extra damage and extra to hit. And then as time goes by, you can choose certain bits about it. So you can, like, for example, lower the fumble rate or increase the critical, or I think it can be advantage against certain species. I don't know. We'll come to that when we get to that bridge. But yeah, so that, and I think sort of admin wise, he just went round and did a shop of standard adventuring stuff like a lantern, which I realised we didn't really have, chalk, mirrors, all bits and bobs that normally my other characters are playing other campaigns and can't carry, so it's nice actually to stock up on things like that. But yeah, so that was it. So actually Woodland Hall has become almost like a second place for him, so like which is probably good because he spends most of his time up in the north in Dale and Erebor, and then when he's down in the south he can be in Woodland Hall, and that's really all he did.
Good stuff.
Thank you. That's perfect. So Neil, I mean, don't rush your narrative if you want to put one together here, but at least kind of maybe describe what forks you took and things at 3rd.
Because he looks a bit like a disreputable rogue, people always treat him like one, and so he tends to behave like one. But recently people have been relying on him and trusting him and so on, so it's kind of had a bit of an effect on him. So he's kind of been doing things like shaving and combing his hair and stuff, and
good heavens,
everything looking a bit more reputable.
So +2 to charisma.
Well, yeah, I think so. I think definitely. He's decided to take on to try and be responsible, and that's why he's kind of chatted up Ingmar to see if he can actually formally do some good in the world, and carry out quests for him. And he's gone down the agent route in the treasure hunter, which essentially is a kind of spy. So I can observe an enemy for a while, and then you get a bunch of benefits that you can choose.
Okay, that's cool. So kind of make some decisions around where you've headed and those kind of things over time. You don't need to kind of wing that now, but that's good. You've got some good balance in the party. I'll just let you know, with Amalfrida, had some interaction over the last couple of days about her development. So we're going to try and work on a slightly different path. Neither of us really felt that there's one option, which is the rider, that's not doesn't really have a great cultural fit with Beornings. I can understand it because it's an animal, but we're going to try and work on an alternative background with Stuart, I think, for Amalfrida. Just don't know what it's going to look like yet. So he may well pick something temporarily for the session, and then we'll revisit it once we've got it worked out. But yeah, there were some revelations about Amalfrida we learnt as well, and I kind of just cover those while hopefully he's still trying to get in. Her two brothers they kind of disappeared during the Battle of the Five Armies, or around that time. And when their bodies were returned to them, and they were retrieved, they had strange arrow wounds in their backs. And Amalfrida detected that on one of them, at least, there was a yellow poppy poison within the wound. And her father, who knew orc kind better than she did, believed that wasn't caused by orcs. She has her suspicions about someone who lived close by, who had a real animosity to her eldest brother. Could have been behind it because he also went off to war with them, but there's no proof. And the only lead she found was he returned through the paths above Mirkwood, whereas most of Beorn and the fellow Beornings who came back west went through on the elf path through Mirkwood. And there's rumours that basically deserters took that path north, and they could well have left well before the battle. These are all rumours. She needs to investigate it, but he did return, the person who had animosity with her brother. I'm afraid I can't remember his name at the moment, but he did return with a human from Dale, which was strange because Dale was very close to the battle site, and that man disappeared shortly after they returned to the settlement near where she grew up. So that was her rough sort of bit of history that we learned. But yeah, she's a woman in turmoil. She's still deeply upset by all of the things that happened back there. So if you remembered, you were on the trail of an escaped prisoner. It looks like, based on all the clues you'd found, and based on some rumours you'd heard on the road, and this is all in the write-up, but you tracked this fella, Oderic, down to an old village, Stonyford, yeah.
Stonybridge.
Stonybridge, yeah, to Stonyford. And there was tales of bloody murder there. And as you walked up, firstly, let's see if this works, it's raining again. And secondly, let's see if I can actually get some rain going here. It's raining as you walk up to the village. It's pretty cool. It's a cool autumn day. It is the 12th of the 4th, which is Astron in the calendar of Middle-earth. And you're happy actually to be all together. Strangely developing a strong bond after spending a lot of the late last year together, despite getting back to the sort of creature comforts of living in bed, sleeping in beds and stuff. You're enjoying being back on the road together. So as you come back up to the village, and just check that the audio is not too loud, the rain, I can turn it down a bit.
It's fine.
Probably mainly for you.
No, I think it's right.
Good. So as you come up to the village again, you see 3 Beornings come out of the village, very obviously have seen you, and they're walking up to you. So you're aware, and this is mainly Amalfrida who kind of tells you about this village as you come up, but you're aware that there's not been a ford at Stonyford for probably hundreds of years, and that's where it got its name. And the river was once passable here, but it no longer is. There was a tumble-down pile of stones atop a low hill where there was once a watchtower that probably guarded a road at some time. The village remains, though, and it's not much more than a few dozen wooden huts clustered around the foot of the mound by the river. Most of the folk here are Beornings who survive by fishing and hunting, as they've done for many generations. So it's not a large village, not a wealthy place at all, and obviously significantly in decline from earlier eras. As you come up to the village, you see the three Beornings facing you are an old sort of grey-beard Beorning who's leaning heavily on a staff, and he's looking at you askance, especially Monin. You get a sense that he scowls when he looks at Monin, but he looks much more open when he sees that you've got a Beorning with you. You then have a fairly proud-looking Beorning woman, probably in her late 20s, and she's standing in the middle of the three. And then on her left is very obviously a warrior. He's got an axe out in both hands, a large one, and he is kind of almost like looking to her for a lead. So that's what you see as you walk up, and let me turn that music off, that's getting annoying. The woman steps forward as you come up and says, hello, I'm Ava. Strangers we don't welcome to our homes. Unless you've business here, you must move on. Woodland Hall's but a few days' travel east of here. Doubt you shall find better hospitality there. We've suffered enough sorrows in recent days. I beg you, just leave us in peace.
Have we agreed to let Amalfrida do the talking, or are we going to push it ourselves? It's obviously a bit hard with the session with Amalfrida not here.
Hey, John, talk to yourself.
I'll tell you what, I'll run the entire thing myself. Let me free up ownership. Does someone want to take Amalfrida and play her as a second PC just for this session?
I think Neil should, because I've seen suspicion that the second rank of talking will be Hathis, so I don't want it to. If anyone needs to help Amalfrida out, I don't want it to be Hathis interjecting.
See, one of the things about becoming an agent is what about diplomacy and charm?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to play if you want.
We could do randomly if you want.
She is not charismatic, so she might not. And I know Stuart plays her as being quite nervous and not forthcoming with her own opinions much. So she feels she's young, so she feels like she.
How do I
defer to her
if I'm playing her?
On the PC, she should now appear there. So you just double click and that will take control of her. You can hear water dripping off your cloaks onto the ground by your boots, squelching through the mud. So you don't have to play it through Amalfrida. She is a Beorning. You had a very good relationship with Beorn, having left his home, so you're relatively aware of the Beorning culture much better than you did before you obviously visited him. So Ava's looking at you expecting to turn round, basically.
So are these people Beornings?
Yeah, they're all Beornings. Old greybeard Ava, who's a woman who stepped forward to speak, and then a very grim-looking Beorning warrior on her left.
Well, Amalfrida will hold her hand up, palm forward in the standard "we are not going to hurt you" gesture, and say, "We have Beornings all, and these are my friends."
So Ava nods. The old man, he sort of grimaces a bit, but then, okay, what do you got to say? He says, and you're Amalfrida is definitely aware that Beornings are typically fairly gruff and not open to a lot of conversation at the best of times, so that's probably not that unusual.
Remind me why we're here again?
To remind you why we're here, Merovich was taking Oderic up to the Carrack because he was charged with killing this woman's husband that he was potentially theoretically found in bed with. Merovich was killed by the orcs, as was his helper. Oderic got away, and we followed his trail to Stonyford, which is where he came from and where the bloody murder happened. And Beorn asked us to recapture the prisoner, to bring him back so he can at least face the justice that he was on his way to face anyway when he left with Merovich.
The prisoner being, do we know the guy's name?
Yeah, I posted it into out of character chat in Fantasy Grounds.
So Oderic, I think, wasn't Oderic the name of the chap that escaped and we were trailing?
Yeah.
Oderic. Release Oderic.
Okay, so just quick summary there, Neil. Oderic was the man accused of murder. He's the guy that escaped, could well have had something to do with maybe orcs with the deaths of the guards transporting into the Carrick. Rathvik was the man he murdered.
I just found
Who came here? Yeah. So it's thanks for posting that in the chat.
Is it I hear you had some sorrow now. Is it manners you're forgetting as well? Do you not greet anybody nowadays? I'm moaning.
Heartwolf, who's the man, he says, "I'm Heartwolf, and I'm not talking to you, dwarf." And then he turns deliberately, very obviously, and rudely back to Amalfrida.
Which one is that? Is that the old one or the warrior one?
He's the old greybeard. Yeah, he's the. And as he says that, the warrior one kind of looks a bit nervously across at the old man. The old man does not look like the sort of guy that would be able to defend himself if something kicks off.
He's going to create a fight.
The other guy looks like he's the muscle there, so he doesn't look that pleased with what the old guy says. But he's introduced himself as Heartwolf, and he's obviously dismissed you completely, moaning. Ava, you get a sense she's a bit pissed off with the old man, and doesn't say anything, but sort of says, "So, lady, don't really need anyone coming through here. Why have you come to Stonyford? We don't get visitors very often."
Sent here by Beorn. Need to know any more? You best not go away.
She raises her eyebrows. Why did Beorn send you here?
His business, isn't it? Not yours to turn us away.
It's my business to protect the village.
Tell that to Beorn.
If I can possibly interject and try and add some detail here to help everyone, you may recall Merovich passing this way recently and taking away Oderic to be questioned about the sad events involving the demise, I believe, of Rathvik. Unfortunately, Merovich was slain by orcs while taking Oderic to Beorn, and Beorn himself, at Merovich's funeral, tasked us with finding Oderic and bringing him to the justice that he has rather fortuitously evaded, possibly by no action on his own, but Beorn's justice must still be served.
See? That's what I just said.
And it's Amalfrida. It's Amalfrida that's speaking at the moment, Neil. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The woman looks across at you, and you can see her sort of brows tighten a bit. The old man's inscrutable. You can't really tell what he's thinking. They whisper. She whispers to the old man, who kind of nods a bit. These are grim tidings. Oderic is a murderer and a kinslayer. We thought that by sending him to the Carrick for judgment, we were done with this evil. The old man kind of curses under his breath about bloody ghosts and evil in the world now. And the younger fighter, it's like knuckles are white on his axe, and he's looking around warily as if expecting Oderic to probably jump from behind a tree or come out the river or something like that. Neil, give me an intelligence traditions introductory check. If you want to help Hathis,
Amalfrida.
This is for Amalfrida. If you want to help Hathis, because you did contribute to this. So they're very hard to impress, basically, this village. So that will be at disadvantage. Your roll will as well, Hathis. If you I'll just let you roll that in a minute. Okay, that I think it'll fail anyway. But if you succeed, Amalfrida, you'll be able to cancel out the disadvantage. So just leave that a second for Amalfrida, Neil. So if you succeed in yours, you'll cancel out that disadvantage. Hathis, because you told the kind of story about why you're here.
So you want me to roll for traditions with disadvantage, yeah?
Yeah.
18 or 18?
Holy mackerel. Okay.
26s.
So Neil, Amalfrida, just roll again, and this is not at disadvantage anymore for a traditions check.
Good girl.
Nice.
+8, -1.
Okay. She whispers to the old man again. The old man nods, and looking fairly grim, but he nods to you and says, "All right, appreciate you coming here, and I appreciate you doing Beorn's bidding. And they speak again, and she says, "All right, come on in. Oderic's house," which she directs you to it as they kind of walk back through the gates, trudging back through the rain. He lived here. It's an empty house near the riverbank. He's not around, obviously. If you want to use this temporarily while you're talking to us and other people, you're welcome to it. Small, but should be dry inside. Appreciate the help.
Let's turn around.
She says, come and talk to us if you want. You can share a fire. We've got fish to eat, and let's have a conversation this evening. Busy today, but don't do anything stupid. The other young man then says to her, "What about our weapons, Ava?" And Ava says, "Yeah, give your weapons over. I don't want any trouble here. If you give them to Willifred," points to the young man, "you can have them back when you leave the village."
How horrifying would that be to a Beorning? Is that acceptable?
Not where you grew up, because you needed them. There were wolves that attacked your sheep and stuff, Amalfrida. Monin's just spent the entire winter crafting a marvellous weapon. I kind of leave it up to the rest of you about how good you find that.
Monin's been spending his time glowering at the old man, and as soon as he hears that, he just, you can hear his teeth visibly grind together, and he sort of looks at Amalfrida pleadingly. "I thought we were on Beorn's business, and you're gonna disarm me? And he just trails off, visibly flushing with anger and just trying to keep himself under control, and then just looking at the old man as if he could kill him with his own eyes.
Well, it's their home.
I don't trust these. I don't trust them. They haven't earned my trust there, Amalfrida. I don't know what they're going to do with these weapons. We know there's a murderer. We don't know if the murderer's back here. We don't know if they're harbouring, and they've got no way of getting back at them. I'm not gonna. I mean, I could probably kill these with my fists anyway, but I've made a very nice weapon. I will not leave my sight, and you will not disarm me, any of yous.
Then why don't you stay nearby and not in the house?
I could do that.
She looks a bit angry, if anything, at the old man, and then says, "Look, keep your weapons. I trust you. Look, we're on edge. We don't have murders in this tiny settlement, and something rotten happened here." And then she kind of looks at Amalfrida and says, "Look, it's lovely to have another face here from Beorn's group. You are welcome. Come on in. We'll have a decent meal tonight. It's about time the whole village had some better news. Come and have a chat with us all tonight. We'll get the village together. Meet in." She points to the large house across the way. "Meet there. Everyone will meet. It's like a meeting hall in the village. Everyone will meet there tonight. We'll have a deer. Let's do this properly. You can keep your weapon, dwarf. All of you can." She nods and says, "I trust you." The old man grimaces a bit at that. The young man actually looks visibly relieved that he's not going to have to go toe-to-toe with a dwarf with a weapon he just spent all winter making. And you are ushered into the small house.
Okay, so this is Oderic's house, is it?
Yeah, it's at Oderic's house. And you kind of close the door behind. It's cold in there. It's small, single cot bed. He have clearly lived alone. It's like a single room dwelling with a fireplace where he looked like he did his cooking, an old, actually starting to rust metal cauldron hanging above it. And the rain is pattering down nicely on the roof.
Well, before we start spreading around inside the house, I guess we ought to look for any signs if he's been back or anyone else has been in recently. Because we were tracking Oderic, weren't we? And we found a dead orc in a ditch, and then a farm where the man said that Oderic or someone like him had passed through. And so did we come to, I'm trying to remember here, did we come to Stonyford because people told us they'd been to Stonyford and there'd been a murder, or we tracked Oderic to Stonyford? Can anyone recall?
Yeah, there's rumours on the road, in the adventure log it. So the company meets a small band of woodmen travelling to Mountain Hall in far west. They passed through the village of Stonyford recently and heard tale there of a bloody murder. Some Beorning named Oderic, and that's the rest I think in chat.
Yep. Okay, gotcha. So we haven't tracked Oderic back here, but Oderic was... Where did we last have his path then? Because could Oderic be coming back here either for something or because that's the only place he knows or anything like that? Or have we diverted off his path to come to Stonyford to sort of go back to the beginning where it all started?
Well, that's where I thought he was coming back here originally, but from the frosty reception we've gotten about all the tales of sorrow and stuff, maybe they're not. And then the guy was mentioning something about ghosts under his breath, that probably needs some explanation because, sometimes ghosts are just people living in somewhere which is supposedly haunted, but it's more of a hideout.
Yes. Or maybe it's something that's driven Oderic to do whatever he did. Malign spirits and evil influences.
I mean, we definitely need to speak to Rathvik's wife, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, so short answer, you're not really sure whether he returned it or not. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, if you want to make plans, that's great. Kind of who's going to do the talking tonight. You actually had a really good interaction with them. You may not have seen that, but the old man doesn't appear to like anyone. The young guy is there as muscle. Ava looks like the main spokesperson, but she was kind of torn two ways. But yeah, you did well there. You get a feeling that, and you know this, Amalfrida, that Beornings typically outside of somewhere like Beorn's Hall are kind of, I wouldn't say struggle to make ends meet, but they're much more individualistic than, say, the woodmen who have got commerce and sort of small cottage industries and things going. Beornings tend to be pretty isolated, so they would do things alone. So they would individually farm for themselves and those kind of things. So sharing meals and things is much less common with the Beornings than the woodmen. Outside of somewhere like Beorn's Hall, he's quite an exceptional character. So, okay, I'll fast forward it to the evening if you want. You see the rain doesn't ease up. It's slightly warmer during the day, some grey rather than very dark grey sky, but that's as good as it gets. And as dusk starts to fall, you see a sort of trail of Beornings heading towards the larger building, and the few of them look over at your direction. You've got a lantern lit in the place now. You've got a small fire going. It's the first time in a while that there's been smoke coming out of the chimney of Oderic's house. It looks like the rumours have got around that there is new folk from outside in town. So do you want to go across to the hall?
Did you want to speak to Rathvik's widow on her own rather than in front of the entire hall first?
Completely up to you. You can do if you want before going over.
I think it might be slightly more tactful to get her version of the story without everyone listening, especially if it's a story of infidelity and or extramarital cot hopping.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I'm not sure even if all four of us should go as well. So Monan definitely probably shouldn't go. Maybe somebody a bit more subtlety. So either the other three of you, or maybe just Amalfrida as a Beorning lady. It's a Beorning lady, but we know Amalfrida by now. She's not your typical princess. She's a warrior. So I don't know how good that would be either.
Well, Hathis is happy to get involved and try and get to the bottom of this mystery.
You're kind of welcome here now. So if you want for Hathis and Sigmar to the new clean-shaven hipster Sigmar to go and meet, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll wrap forward to just after lunch. You ask a couple of people who look a little wary, but it looks like you've been here in the village now for 2 or 3 hours. It looks like the story around you's gone around. So these people direct you to say, Brunhild, she's likely to be at Rathvik's grave now. Just type that name in chat for you.
Is that Brunhild, as everyone AC? What is it? Django Unchained. B, the German whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not Brunhilde, it's Brunhild. But yeah, it's names in chat. And you see a woman in the small graveyard to the north of the village. It looks like very old. There's a lot more graves here than there look like houses in the village. So this was clearly a much larger settlement at some point. But you see this woman, guys, as you come up to the graveyard. Looks like she's just laying out flowers, fresh flowers on a grave mound. And you can see a fairly recent mound in that image there of stones where obviously Rathwick was buried.
Are you the
And
slapper?
you can see also...
Luckily, you're not there, are you?
Luckily, I'm not there.
That's you talking to yourself in off Oderic's house, isn't it?
Oh, that's brilliant. So you can see as you walk up to the grave, there's a lot of burnt out candles. Looks like she's been lighting candles on the grave, or someone has, near where the headstone, near where the head of the end of the grave would be. And as you walk up, she looks up and you see tear tracks mingling with the rain streaming down her face. Looks like she's still grieving seriously.
So she's looked up to us, kind of. So okay. So I'll say.
Yeah, and you can see she wearily wipes the tears from her eyes, and she kind of stands up, but all the pride's gone out of her. She's looks like a distraught woman still.
I'm sorry to intrude, Brunhild, but when you're ready, we would be grateful if we can ask you a few questions.
Who are you?
I am Brother Hathis. This is my friend Sigmar. Sorry?
I'll bow.
Oh, okay. We've been sent by Beorn to follow the trail of Oderic and bring him to face justice at the Carrack.
She sort of draws in a ragged breath. It's clear that tears are close to her eyes again. And well, I told that other Beorning everything I knew about that night. Why do you still want to helm me?
There's been a terrible development such that Merivetch, the much respected Beorn that I believe you would have spoken to previously, has been slain by orcs while travelling with Oderic. Oderic has escaped, fled in the confusion, and hence Beorn has asked us to recapture or find Oderic and bring him back to the Carrack, to sit with Beorn and find out what has happened.
We, madam, will bring Rathwick's killer to justice.
She kind of resignedly sighs and says, all right, this is what I told, I can't remember his name, but that other Beorning. She explains that, actually, strange and very strange news to you, so something about what you've heard so far may not ring true, but Oderic is her brother.
Oderic's her brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's highly unlikely.
Yeah, she was in bed with him.
She was in bed with him. So who knows? Who
It's
knows
not Norfolk,
inner workings of the Beorning? Just lost all our Norfolk listeners now.
That's both of them.
She explains that her brother Oderic came to her saying that basically he was tired of the village and he intended to leave and seek his fortune elsewhere in the wild. And he basically said he was sick of the place. It was just too small, insular, and everyone was minding everyone else's business. And he actually...
It is Norfolk.
And she said, well, he actually said, you should come with me, to me. And I hesitated. And as we were kind of discussing, I was mulling it over. That's when Rathwick, my husband, came home. And there's no real secret that Rathwick and Oderic didn't like each other. And they immediately began arguing. It looks like it's to me that Rathwick maybe overheard what we were talking about before he opened the door. And I tried to stop them arguing, and then she kind of takes a bit of a ragged breath. Rathwick just slapped me and knocked me down. And I couldn't, and then she starts crying, and I couldn't stop him, but Oderic attacked him. And one of them drew a knife. I didn't see, but they struggled. And then suddenly the knife was in Rathwick's chest, and there was blood everywhere. And I don't know what happened, but shortly afterwards, my father, Helmgut, came running over, and he saw Oderic standing there over Rathwick's body, and he hit his foster son with the flat of his axe. And Oderic didn't even try to fight back. He just dropped the knife and fell on the spot. It was such a mess.
So he dropped the knife and fell on the spot from being hit with the axe. Was he knocked out, or did he collapse into a sobbing heap, or...
He wasn't hurt by the axe. I think he may have been knocked out. He may have just given up. I don't know.
Okay. And then what happened?
It was just taken. Well, they kind of tied him up, and a few days later, those other Beornings came, and he was taken to the Carrick for justice. Rathwick was dead. They had to do something.
And did you see Oderic after he was taken and before he went away with the other Beorning? Did you speak to him?
She shakes her head, and then she looks around. Give me a perception check, both of you, in the tower. So, Hathis, you think that she was looking around just to make sure that she was definitely alone. It's fairly open, the rain lashing down, but she was probably looking to see if anyone else was overhearing. She didn't see anyone, so she hesitates and then kind of nods to herself and said, well, I wasn't able to see him before Merovich and Otto took him, but she takes a deep breath, said, he visited me a few days ago. And she really lowers her voice when she says that. And he said that, well, Merovich and Otto were killed by orcs, but he slipped away in the confusion. And he says, well, fate's given me a second chance, and that he knows he can never return to the land of the Beornings. But he doesn't know what to do. He said he was going to go west across the Great River, and I know I'll never see him again. I don't believe he killed Rathwick, but and then she sobs again. It's such a mess.
When you say you don't believe he killed Rathwick, you were there in the room, were you not? So how do you think Rathwick died?
Well, they were just arguing over it wasn't murder. They were just arguing, and it's all my fault. It shouldn't have encouraged Oderic and listened to him, and they wouldn't have argued. And
I don't think it's your fault in the slightest.
I don't know. I don't believe Oderic's a murderer. He didn't. It may have been an accident, but we'll never know now.
And so when you saw Oderic, when was this? Yesterday? 2 days ago?
2 or 3 days ago. 2 days. 2 days ago. No, 3 days ago. Sorry.
And was it? And where did you see him? Did he come to your house, or did you see him near the village?
Oh, yeah, he came to my house. So it was late. It was late at night. Probably small hours in the morning. Maybe 3 or 4 bells before dawn.
And how long did he stay for? Did he stay for a short while? Did he stay for a little, quite a bit longer? Did you feed him? How did he look?
Didn't stay long. He wouldn't take food. He probably stayed 20 minutes. That was it.
Okay. And did he come into your house, or was it a conversation at a door or through a window?
Oh yeah, he came in. He didn't want to be seen by anyone else.
Okay.
I don't know what's right to say. He's my brother. I don't think he killed Rathwick, but he didn't murder him. He may have killed him, but it may have been an accident. I just don't know.
Well, having met Beorn, I know that Beorn is one of the wisest people I've met in my time. And if anyone was to puzzle his way through this, it would be Beorn himself. So I don't think you should be fearful of Beorn's justice, but we have been tasked with finding Oderic so that Beorn can hear from him himself what did and didn't happen.
But they might kill him. And he might be, I don't know, he might be innocent, but I don't want him to be killed.
We are tasked with bringing him alive to Beorn, and as I say, Beorn is the wisest person I have met. One of the very wisest people I've met, so I don't doubt he would do the right thing. So I don't think Oderic would be killed out of hand or, found guilty of something that isn't true.
What happened? And Oderic will be fine. If things are as you say, then you all will understand.
She looks at both of you and says, yes, Beorn is a true leader of us all, and I know the Carrick's the right place for him to go, but I'm just so scared for him.
Well, think of this. If he evades justice, what will Beorn do then? Maybe it's the best thing for him to turn himself in, face Beorn's wisdom, and then have a clear conscience.
Oh, maybe.
Well, if you see Oderic again, please implore with him to contact us discreetly, and we can travel with him away from the gaze of Stonyford up to the Carrack, and he can meet Beorn and tell his story with as much time and understanding as he needs. So if he makes contact with you again tonight or tomorrow or any time, or you see him again, please implore him to come to us. We're not here to harm him. We're not here to kill him or hunt him beyond. We've been tasked by Beorn himself. But these loose ends need tying up, and this mystery needs to be resolved for everyone's peace of mind and understanding.
And she takes a big sigh and says, all right, I can do that.
Brilliant. If this was Lao, Law and Order, I would hand him my card and say, if you think of anything else, phone me.
As your eyes flash red with your dark, powerful knowledge
exactly.
of... so she says, now if you'll leave me be, and she turns back to the grave and kind of sits almost in the mud next to it. She's clearly distraught. And you decide it's best to leave her with her own thoughts. Maybe see her tonight as well. All right, so you head back down to the, back to the Oderic's old house.
Yes, I want to ask Amalfrida now what the flowers and the candles on the grave might mean. You know, are they to ward away evil spirits in a certain circumstance, or are they just general, traditional, this is what you put at the grave, or is there any meaning or supposed power to the
Amalfrida knows that the candles signify... So candles are lit every week for a year after someone dies at night. And it's just a ritual that the Beornings undertake, and it's not routinely used. It's quite an old ritual. Flowers are probably just love for the person that died.
Well, these are particularly they look like all the same flowers, like white roses, and sometimes things like white roses have a significance compared to red roses or yellow lilies.
Yeah, they were all the same, but they're a white flower that grows around here, so they're quite common. But it's probably just easy flowers finding. Yeah,
no problem at all.
The older man.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say we'll relay everything relay the conversations and impressions back to Monin the Sensitive and Amalfrida. So Slapper says, she's not a slapper, it's his sister.
Oh, right. Even worse. The older man who met us at the front gate, what was his name?
Something Wolf, wasn't it? Heart Wolf?
Okay, it was Hartwolf, Hartwulf.
Wasn't Helmgut then, so that's fine. Okay.
Yeah. So that was the foster father. So that's not her real father. That sounded like Oderic's father. Sorry, it's her father, not Oderic's. It was Oderic's foster father.
So we could do with speaking with Helmgut.
Yeah, so they were half brother and sister.
Yeah. So they may have been sleeping together.
And why is he fostered? Is he raised by wolves and found in a reed bed kind of thing, or etc. etc.
Do you want to go and try and find Helmgut?
Yes, please. Are you coming too, Monin? I think he may be more your line of...
I will stretch my legs. I'll come with you.
All right, so it's kind of middle of the afternoon, and as you can hear, rain's still coming down. The hut, Helmgut's hut, is fairly run down. Doesn't look that well maintained. And as you come up to the door, you can see a lot of the little path up to it's pretty overgrown with weeds, some of them like ankle to shin high. Doesn't look like it comes out of his hut very often even. Then you come up to the door. Nice sound effects, thank you. You hear this voice slightly slurring from inside saying, "What is it?"
Is Helmgut there?
I'm Helmgut. Come on in.
Okay, we'll go in.
So you go in and you see an elderly middle-aged man levering himself up off the floor, off the rushes on the floor, and he's got what looks like a half-full wineskin in his hand, and he kind of shuffles over to a table and kind of slumps down in it. you notice the first thing that, other than he's drunk and looks like he's been for a while, is that he's massive. He's got clearly Mimoni, you would think he's either a blacksmith or he's a hell of a warrior. This guy, he's got big shoulders, even though looks really out of shape and he's clearly a drunk. He is a pretty intimidating one, and there is a very, very large axe leaning in the corner of the room.
Might need my subtlety here.
Helmgut, my name is Brother Hathus, and I've been charged by Beorn himself to find Oderic and to take him to the Carrack to face justice. I would be very grateful if I could hear your story of events on that fateful night when Rathvik met his end.
He almost screams out at you, "Why the fuck should I talk to you? Fuck off out of my hut. Leave me alone."
I think I might back off a bit at this point. A drunk, very large man telling us to get out of his hut. He's probably got a bit of right to do that.
And he swings his wine glass as he's gesticulating you there, and wine sloshes out of it a bit.
Yeah, I shall back off a reasonable amount because it's obviously a bit of a tinderbox situation.
So this is Oderic's stepfather.
Yes, so this would be
Right.
Brunhild's father, her stepfather. Sorry, Oderic's stepfather. Foster father, probably, not stepfather.
Hey, Helmgut, does Rathvik have any kin here?
Rathvik? He belches. Fucking probably, yeah. I don't know if they're still around. No, I don't think he does, actually. He wasn't from here. Now, fuck off and leave me to my thoughts. Unless you want to make something of it, and he glares over at you. Fucking dwarves in town as well.
Oh, he's starting to speak my language.
I think we should give Helmgut his space and respect his wishes. It must be a very soulful time for him.
Aye, that woman, the young woman, she let me keep my weapon. Probably hoping that I wouldn't use it, so I'm not going to use it. We'll leave this fat drunk alone. Let's get out of here.
That's right, you fuck off. And he sits down, belches again, and then listen to your man with the fancy words.
I shall bow slightly, and then we'll leave.
Very cosy place, this, Hathis.
It's just getting better. Maybe he'll be calmer in the morning. We have caught him at a bad time.
So thinking about this, as they're heading back down,
yeah.
Oderic's, this man who's dead, he's not got anybody really that looking to avenge him or anything like that. The only people here that seem to be hurting is the Da and the sister.
Well, Brunhild said that her husband slapped her. She's trying to blame herself, so I think she's probably had a tough marriage, but maybe other people can tell us about the state of Rathvik and Brunhilde's relationship.
I don't know. I can't see what Beorn would rule here. I mean, obviously Rathvik needs some kind of justice because he didn't deserve to die like that, but it doesn't seem like it was on purpose either.
Problems we weren't there. We're not sure of the motives of the people who are what they are or are not telling us.
No, true, and that's not really for us to decide either, is it?
Yeah.
I can't wait to this feast.
Maybe we'll get some answers. I fear we may get more questions than answers.
That's the ghosts I want to hear about.
I've forgotten about the ghosts.
Are they real? Who knows? Okay, do you want to... I guess you don't really know anyone else around town.
Yeah.
It looks like Rathvik doesn't have family around. So the only people who are vague witnesses to actually what happened would be Brunhild and Helmgut. You've spoken to both of them. So if you want, I'll fast forward to the gathering in the evening.
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
Anyone object?
No, straight to the party.
Nope. Party.
Should we get preloaded before we get there?
Pre-game. You turn up staggering drunk. as emissaries of Beorn.
We're just going to arrest you all.
It seems
fucking Beorn.
I'll fucking own you all. So you go up to this. I wouldn't say it's a hall, but it's a place that could probably accommodate 30, 40 people standing around having canapes and a glass of wine. And there are, as you come up, there is a really, really nice smell coming out of the door. The door's open. It's got a big porch. It clearly rains a lot here, and there's few people standing under the porch smoking, blowing smoke into the rain. But there's a lovely smell of roasting venison coming out. The young warrior standing at the door nods to you and says, "Food and drink inside. Thank you for causing no trouble." He looks quite relieved. And as soon as you walk in, all eyes turn on you, and it's very clear that they don't get a lot of visitors, and pretty much everyone in the village wants to talk to you. There's literally 20% of the people in the room, like 8-10 people, start walking towards you, look at each other walking towards you, and kind of stop and then go back to talking again. So you've got a very, very captive audience in the village here. And Ava, who you met before, comes back from the back. She was standing near the fire at the back, talking to a more elderly woman who is basting a large deer that's roasting over the fire, and the smell is fantastic. Looks like there's a big pot of stewed vegetables or something over the fire as well. And she comes over and, I wouldn't say smiles, but says, "Welcome, and thank you for causing no trouble. If you can help us understand what happened here and help the village put it behind us, we'll be very grateful to you. Come and get some food and drink, and then come and meet some of the people in the village. Haven't had this sort of turnout since the last wedding." She kind of smiles to herself, and then she leads you back over towards the fire. And there's a table set up there with a single barrel on it and another one on the floor beside it. It looks like there's some beer that they're drinking, and she hands around 4 cups of beer, not large portions, and it's not that strong beer, but it's tasty. And you kind of sip and look around at the rest of the room.
Do I get a chance to speak to Ava sort of discreetly, or is it always in earshot of everyone else?
Role played out. She's not making an effort to kind of take you to one side, no.
Okay. In which case, could I have a very quick word with you in private, Ava? Have you got time?
Yeah, of course. And then says, "How long?" And the woman nods and says, "Maybe 20, 30 minutes. And then she says, "Come with me." And she takes her cup off the table and kind of leads you to a quiet corner where you can see people looking at you, but no one can overhear.
And I'll say it's nothing too dramatic at all, but we tried to have Helmgut, and he was fairly drunk and fairly abusive. Is that his normal state now? Or do you think we might find him more receptive or a more sober and thoughtful witness late at another time?
She puffs her cheeks out and says, "He was never the soberest man alive, but he's got bitter as well since what happened."
And do you think it's related? Yeah, do you think it's related?
Oh, absolutely. His daughter won't say Brunhild won't talk to her anymore. Yeah, it's a real mess. Did he tell you anything? And she kind of inquires.
Beyond F off? No.
Well, I don't think. Well, you might do. He's a big guy, but I don't know. He scares me, or used to, but I don't think he'll do anything. He just basically bury himself in a wineskin.
My only concern is he's the only person who could potentially corroborate Brunhild's story. I don't think anyone else saw anything else. Maybe we'll find out some more from other people. But so he would really be helpful if he would speak to us, so we can, validate what Brunhild has told us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of the other folk in the village may know something about what's going on. Don't know.
Yeah, I'm fully looking forward to meeting everyone and talking to everyone. I just wanted to try and get a little background on Helmgut. Has he always been like this? It sounds like he's taken something pretty hard and has fallen in a pit.
Yes, I mean, he's a very honourable man, I think, though. I mean, he was the one that actually sent Oderic to the Carrick originally. I mean, you probably know, but he found the scene. He was the first man there, and he disarmed him, and he led that. So yeah, I just had a horrible year.
Understood. If we went to him tomorrow morning, do you think he'll be sober, or is his situation semi-permanently drunk?
Yeah, I've been sober for weeks. Doubt it.
Okay. We'll play him by ear then, but thank you. I just wanted to check a little bit of background
all right.
on Helmgut. So we'll go back. I don't want it to be too dramatic of closeted in the corner for hours, but...
Okay, so yeah, she kind of passed off, and they don't appear to have leadership here, but people are saying hello and nodding to her as they come in, so it looks like she might be a de facto leader, even if not overtly.
And so when I get back to the others, I'll just say it seems like that drunk and disorderly is situation normal for Helmgut.
I thought as much, maybe.
It's really interesting. I mean, these people, they look like they really are desperate to talk to you, most of them, but they are also... It's like teenagers across the other side of a school disco when they're like 15. They're like, they keep looking over and then they don't dare come and talk.
That's fine.
That sort of
as soon as if the food's been, have we still got time before the food's doled out, or is food being doled out?
Yeah, you still. Well, I tell you what. Let's fast forward a little bit. So you spend there some time drinking. It's quicker than you thought. Of like five or 10 minutes later, and a couple of people have come over and they've said hello, or don't see many dwarves around here, and those
Hello. Don't see many dwarves
they're not
around
talking. Do you come here often? Those kind of things. They don't really open up a lot. And after like 5 minutes, Ava looks like she's got the nod from the cook and says, "So friends, it looks like the feast is ready." And she nods in thanks. Thanks to Mary here, done a great job as always, and thanks to you all for chipping in with some vegetables and fish for the stew. And then she says, "Well, rumours are around. These four here are trying to help us get to the bottom of what happened to poor Rathvik and Oderic and work out what happened. Any help you can offer them, now's the time to have a talk. But enjoy the meal, enjoy the feast, and no drinking too much. It's going to be a busy day tomorrow, but have fun tonight." And then, woman, a few words, she kind of raises a glass, nods, and they all kind of grumble and mumble, and then there's a queue forms for the food. You're offered the head of the line, and you take a platter of steaming venison and some kind of fishy vegetable stew as well on the side, which looks really nice, actually. And you kind of you decamp to trestle table. Do you want to sit together, which would probably be a bit more intimidating for them, or spread out to allow sort of groups of them to cluster towards individuals?
I guess we can spread out for a bit and try and sort the wheat from the chaff if people want.
Okay, so
Mona wants to try and sit beside the old guy if he can.
I bet he does. How you doing, you old bastard?
Looking through like knitted eyebrows. Okay, so everyone roll initiative. Just purely to go through the order of interactions with people sitting around you. So I'll just do it one at a time. Okay, so
right. Amalfrida,
that would make sense as you're the only Beorning. So Amalfrida, strangely, there are some young 20-something Beornings typically sitting around you. They come over to your table. It's and they kind of sit down, and you actually quite rapidly strike up conversation. You've heard of some of the Beornings that they know through kind of third parties, and it's quite easy to bring up a conversation. So, what do you want to say?
Honestly, I don't know. Can she go last? Because I'm yeah.
No, it's fine. I could,
because you read all her notes, and basically she's really grim and angry. Doesn't like talking. So,
well, just give me because she's trying to get information. She knows that. Give me either an intelligence riddle or a wisdom insight check. If you there's 5 people sitting at the table. Make 5 rolls. They seem really wanting to tell you they know you're here about Oderic and Rat. You almost don't need to ask them questions, almost, but you're kind of prompting them occasionally. So whichever's best out of those 2.
Yeah, that'd be insight then. So,
okay.
The curse of Sigmar.
It's all going straight over. All going over your head at the moment.
No.
Okay, so that's the curse of Sigmar.
I think very Amalfrida.
So what you did learn, which you hadn't learned before, is that Oderic's family were killed by outlaws when he was a young child. That struck you as being a potential interest. Didn't really find anything else though.
Yep. I wonder why Helmgut took him. Okay.
So we'll go to you, Hathis. So Ava sits near you as you did a lot of the talking. It transpires that the old man is her father.
The old man.
The man who at the gate who met you. And it looks like there's some.
Heartwolf.
It's typically an older crowd sitting around you, and they're quite respectful.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to try and basically find out information, again, they're very willing to open up and talk.
Yep, that's what they're for.
Give me 5 either insight or riddle checks. Yeah.
Oh, they'll be riddles.
Okay.
26.
Holy mackerel. Okay. Just give me 5 and I'll kind of work through it.
21.
This is what you should be doing, Neil. These are the kind of rolls you need.
26.
Holy crap. It's 2 natural 20s.
Oh, 8. Couldn't understand his accent.
Sprayed beer out of his nose for that one. So.
Oh, 9. I've burnt out.
Okay.
I've gone too early.
Okay, so you hear that Oderic's pretty strange guy, and he's done a lot of sword practice, which you didn't know, and he's been strange ever since he was a young child. That you don't know. They can't really define what makes him strange, but you also learn that his parents were killed, and that's going to affect a kid, isn't it? You also learn that Oderic was fostered by an old warrior. Again, you know this, called Helmgut, Brunhild's dad. And you also learn that Helmgut never really liked Oderic, and he took him on and in to honour Oderic's dead father.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. I was going to ask. I was wondering why Helmgut fostered Oderic, because he doesn't seem the warm-hearted, welcoming chap from the slight interaction I had with him today. Okay, he took him as an honour to Oderic's dead father. So who was Oderic's dead father?
You don't learn that.
Okay.
Okay, Monin. I'm just going to go round. We'll do it.
I understood. Yeah.
Spread it out. Monin, so people are treating you a bit like an alien. It's like, basically, we don't see many dwarves around here, and they're quite fascinated by you. Probably a kind-hearted but very naive woman says, "Would you like a cushion to sit on?" Which doesn't go too well with Monin, but you kind of realise you're only trying to be friendly and doesn't know what's going on. So if you want to give me 5, this is kind of skill checks, either riddle or insight, to see if you can glean any more information from them.
Can he get close to Heartwolf at all?
Yeah. He obviously doesn't sit near you, but you wait until he sits down and you sit right opposite him in a very confrontational way.
Yeah, well, so if he does, he'll say, probably before anybody gets to speak to him, "So, Heartwolf, I'm a friend to Dane of Erebor, Bard of Dale, Beorn, and have the gratitude and friendship of Woodland Hall. Why would you not consider me a friend and dismiss me and my kin straight out of hand?"
He sort of puffs out his moustaches a bit and says, and looks down a bit sheepishly. "Well, dwarves, they thieve your money. Everyone knows that."
I think he gets confused with hobbits.
Love it.
We make things, and in exchange for your coins, give you fantastic goods.
Oh, he says, "Well, they're bloody expensive. No one can afford that. That's what I mean by thieve your money. Nothing's worth what they want to charge for stuff."
You wouldn't be a Brexit supporter, would you? Sorry.
He's an Arab exit supporter.
Well, I suppose I can't win you over. I can't win everything. I'm just surprised at that attitude. You've got so old. And he'll just ignore him and then try and speak to some more friendlier folk, and I'll give you those insight checks.
Good man.
Yeah, he does look like especially an angry old racist. So,
Nice.
Okay, nice. He's giving.
Nice.
Whoa! Nice job. Okay, so.
Nice shooting.
Yeah, I mean, whatever reason, Monin, they are just gushing at your table. And And you learn a whole load of stuff. You learned that, well, Helmgut was the best warrior in the village, and you learn that he was training Oderic to follow in his footsteps. And you learned that when Rafik came to live here, Oderic was jealous of him. So that's one thing you learned. You learned that Oderic himself was very, very close to Brunhild, which you kind of suspected, but it's been confirmed. Also, that Oderic was absolutely obsessed with her. He would actually sometimes follow her around the village.
Mm-hmm.
You also learned that he would probably go possessive almost, but he would do anything to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
He's fanatical about her really, and was obsessed. And then so one of the old women sitting at the table says, well, actually, if he came back to the village, she would definitely know about it. So yeah, you get a lot of information there from your table.
Is there kind of any sexual connotations to those rumours, or does it just seem to be just very? He seems overly protective of her.
Hard to say. You don't think so. You think it was more brother sister, very close bond that they had, even though they're not true brother and sister.
Okay,
Sigmar.
Yes.
You're sitting at a table with. You gravitate over to a table where it's someone's got a pot of dice sitting on the corner. Obviously intrigued to see what kind of games they play after the meal, and people are pretty open with you. What do you want to say?
Well, he's going to basically make himself known to the room and stand up and just sort of spread his arms wide and goes, Beorning hospitality is legendary. It's wonderful to be amongst you. And then basically sit down and just start tucking in and generally trying to look as genial and approachable as
possible. Yep.
There's a shout from the back saying, "I like you, sir," and he raises his cup, and a few like grumbles and like a ragged cheer goes up, and they all kind of sit down again. And there's Beorning's quite well disposed to you, sitting opposite and around you. There's a family at the end of the table with kids, and the rest of them are typically look like fishermen or farmers, most of them.
So yeah, it's going to be charming Sigmar this evening, and just basically beam at everybody and chat and be interested in. Yeah.
All right, give me a either insight or riddle check. Give me 5 in the tower.
Insight or
in the tower.
Sorry, no, you don't need to do it in the tower. You do it in the open. Oh, Sigmar's back to Sigmar. Ooh, that's better.
Pretty good.
Oh, look, that made the difference. The further left it is, the better it goes. Oh no!
It's looped around again. I'm expecting 15 now. Oh god, that was it. It spiked at 18.
Sorry, I spilled my drink on numbers 1, 4, and 5.
Okay, so you found what you did find out is something about Rafik, that a few years ago he came down from the mountains to settle here. So that kind of confirms that he doesn't have family in the village. You also found out that when he became the village's chief warrior, he was betrothed to Brunhild then.
So Rafik became the chief warrior.
Yeah. Okay, so back to Amalfrida. Neil, different dice colour, but back to you.
So hang on, can we just try and get our heads around what we've got so far? What's it looking like? It's looking like Oderic and Brunhild were basically having relations, despite the fact that they're allegedly brother and sister. And she's probably.
We don't know if there's any sexual stuff.
Yeah, I'm hoping not. I think he's probably a bit obsessed and overprotective of his. He probably might have even got a crush on his foster step, whatever the word is, sister. But I don't think there was anything going on.
And you don't know if all of these things are true or false. You've no idea. It's basically coming across as gossip. Initially, a lot of the more gossipy, effusive people are talking. So yeah, these may not all be true. They may be true.
I'm very suspicious about what happened in the room and who plunged the dagger into Rafik.
Was it a dagger, or didn't she say that he was hit?
No, Rafik, dagger in chest. Then Helmgut came through the door and smacked Oderic with the flat of his blade, knocked him to the ground, and then he was carted off. Now maybe she stabbed. I'm saying this when no one else can hear, apart from you guys. Maybe she stabbed him. Abusive husband finally had enough. Oderic covered, took the rap because he'd do anything for her. Helmgut realizes it's the only way out for his poor daughter, and he's been ripped up because his favourite son is taking the rap and is now taking the rap for, a murder he didn't do.
Yeah, because she did say about a dagger coming. She didn't say that anybody drew it. She just, and then there was a dagger that was produced. So yeah, anybody could have produced that. And one thing as well, looking between the lines here, Oderic is obsessed with her, dotes on her, whatever. Well, we don't know what the real depth of that relationship.
Yeah.
And he's come already to speak to her and said, look, I'm going to get a new start. Why didn't she go with him? Or is he really going to give up that easily? Not try, because what is there here for her now?
Yeah. And also, I wonder if he's still around. If he's obsessed with her, he may well be watching, keeping an eye out.
So we should keep an eye on her, and maybe he'll come and visit again, and we'll get him.
Yeah, might be what's going on. Who are these people? So yeah, but anyhow, let's keep talking to. We're having a team huddle. Obviously, let's get back out there.
Don't worry, I'll charm him with my horn instrument soon.
Oh, God.
I know. You're so shit with it. I should be good. I've got a +4 specialisation in it, but I just roll like 1s and 2s all the time.
So Amalfrida is going to start talking to people as if she's really actually on Oderic's side, and he sounds like
My kind of chap.
He's been hard done by. Poor man. What a terrible background. Poor Brunhild. He looked after her, didn't he? And all this kind of stuff. Sounds like he was really there for her. He's just
It's tragic.
had a bad luck, and such a shame that people think it was him that is at fault.
Okay, so you're focusing on Oderic as if he's a friend, and you get some other kind of opinions shared with you. Oh, sorry, give me 5 rolls again to see the number of things you get shared with.
Whoa.
Oh.
There's
Yeah.
4.
Ah.
Anyway.
Whoa. Okay, so you learn that Oderic was even as a young child, did a lot of sword practice, and he did it every day. Never stopped practice sword work till the day he left the village. You also learned that Helmgut doted on Oderic, treated him like his son.
Mm-hmm.
Someone thought, and they're kind of people racking their brains here because they really want to help. Well, so someone says, well, actually, didn't they live together? They're like sister and brother. They lived together and got on really well. And finally, someone says, well, I think Oderic crept back into Rathvik's house and he murdered him while he slept. Don't think Brunhild was around at all.
Mm.
So much for he's hard done by, and everyone's trying to see the good in him.
So again, don't take the order I gave you those in any meaning in the order you rolled your dice or anything. I'm just giving you some information that you're learning. Okay, next up, Hathis, on your table, what's going on?
I guess I'd like to know a little bit more about Rathvik. He came down from the mountains and became chief warrior. If Oderic is the stepson, foster son of the greatest warrior in the village and practices sword every bloomin' day, I guess why was Rathvik made chief warrior and betrothed to Oderic's sister? Especially if he's obsessed with his sister, I can see Oderic being understandably jealous of all this good fortune seemingly come to this out-of-town strangers, so easily. And especially, was Rathvik better at fighting than Oderic, or why was Rathvik chief warrior? So that's the kind of angle I'll be looking at.
So many focus on Rathvik. All right,
Yeah.
So give me 5 rolls.
It's going to be riddles again.
Okay.
26.
God, natural 20.
Holy, that's the 3rd.
Oh, it just rolled off onto the 14. Oh, the low one.
He's going off the boil. He's getting bored with these people.
Yeah, you see. That's hard
You shouldn't be questioning him in the black speech. That's what's going wrong.
The glowing eyes. Turn off glowing eyes when talking to Normans.
All right. So You hear that someone says, and this is a man with a bit of a hook nose, Rafik bought her from her father.
That's fighting talk.
You also learn that Rafik was a truly great warrior and an honourable man. So they kind of disagreed. These people were kind of arguing. You overheard that. So one woman who looks over tenderly at Brunhild when she says this said, "But well, yeah, Rafik was a great warrior, but he was often cruel. He only cared about himself, and he treated poor Brunhild like a servant." Something you learn, and then one interesting snippet that someone's opinion was that actually Oderic always hated Rafik because he took Oderic's place in his heart, in Helmgut's heart. He kind of usurped him in his place of favour.
I could see that. Interesting.
Okay, Monin.
Monin's going to try and probe the ghost angle.
The ghost. You're itching for the ghost story, aren't you?
Well, it's just
Halloween. That's what it is.
That's what was sort of first mentioned about the sorrow in the village, and just trying to figure out, is it just this murder that's brought sorrow in the village, or is there more to it than that?
Nice.
Right. So they look a bit blankly. It was the old man that you're sitting opposite. You mentioned that. He says, "No, just a figure of speech, dwarf. There's no ghosts around here. Don't be stupid. There's no such thing as ghosts."
Ha! Haven't left this village much, have you? We've seen the dead. Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be speaking in character. I haven't left this village much, have you? We've seen the dead walk at night, spiders in the forest. Even, you see those two there, and he points to Sigmar and Hathmas. They were goblins once. wait for that if anybody hears that, for it to die down. And I can tell you a tale about that.
That's just a quiet moment where everyone stops speaking, and just as when you say they were goblins,
exactly that happens. You can raise your voice a little bit. You hear a sharp intake of breath from the mother of the two children down the other end of the table who's overhearing. The kids' eyes go really wide as you said. You talk about spiders and things like dangerous things that in the wild, and then there's a bit of a squeak from the little girl as you mentioned that there are two colleagues used to be goblins, but the old man just smirks at you and says, "Yeah, dwarf."
Oh no, let me tell you the tale, and he'll get onto the chair, stand on it, and then stand on the table. Now you see, there was a hobbit called Dindy and a hobbit called Dodi, and he starts telling the tale about how these two are dressed as goblins and fed the goblin chief as such a brew that they fell asleep, and how they spirited the keys, and just really trying to embellish it. I don't think he's got the skills. I mean, this would be better told by Hathis, but if any of the other ones like Hathis or Sigmar, who'd probably better at that kind of thing, can weigh in, then great, but he'll tell the tale.
A few people bang on the table to quieten everyone down when you stand up. It's clearly a rarity to have a dwarf here. Definitely one that stands up on the table and starts giving speeches. Yep. So give me a performance check to see the general reaction you get from that, Monin.
5.
It could have been worse. But...
The performance wasn't a great one. You kind of stumble over your words a bit. A couple of the anecdotes you tell, you kind of lose track in the middle of them. It ends up as a different ending to the anecdote, and you kind of look down and which you definitely lose your train of thought because Hathis is just looking up at you directly and just shaking his head and like motioning you to sit down, and that really puts you off your stride. And eventually you kind of peter out and just end up sitting back down at your chair.
Yeah, that's probably how it would happen as well. Yeah, so that's what happens.
Okay, you kind of gruffly sit down and said, you wink at the kids and say, "Not sure about the goblins," and they kind of look a bit relieved, and then the hubbub starts back in the room again, and the other folks around you start talking and looking to give you information. So give me 5 rolls again, and let me know what if you find anything new.
God, rapid fire.
1, 2. Okay, so one person tells you that they think that Rathric caught Oderic in bed with Brunhild. Always something strange between those two, and caught Oderic spying on him. So that should be a separate one. Yeah, but and so someone says, well, that wasn't true. Rathric just caught Oderic like spying on him. Maybe Rathric was having an affair. I don't know. You learned also that Oderic broke into Rathric's house. That was very different from what other people have said, and actually challenged him a fight, and it was nothing to do with Brunhild. She wasn't even there. Final one you learn is that Oderic definitely had the skills to fight his way out, but he couldn't bring himself to kill his foster father.
I could believe that.
There's a lot of there's a huge amount of opinion here, but it's hard to sort out the wheat from the chaff. You're coalescing a little bit into a story of what potentially happened, but you still really don't know. You're still not certain of what actually happened in the heat of the moment in that room. Okay, Sigmar, you looked over bemusedly at the sign of a dwarf standing on a table just now, giving a very short, what became a fairly short story that people were a bit bemused at, and then the hubbub starts back around your table.
I'm going to look over it and go, and turn away.
Bravo!
So friends, tell me more of Brunhild, poor girl.
Okay, give me 5 rolls.
Her sorrow is so deep. Oh, sorry about that, madam.
You sprayed gravy all over it.
Oh,
and then
soup, sir.
My foot is in.
You went to
3 5s in a row.
3 5s in a row. Wow.
Pardon me, that was the beans.
Oh,
that's better. Hello.
Okay. You stop trying to mop gravy off the woman's bosom next to you with a cloth, yeah, and
back again.
And go back to some of the other side of the table. So it tells you that so kind of the one thing you learned about Brunhild is that he could have easily fought his way free, but it was actually Brunhild that told him to stop. She heard that direct from Helmgut. This woman was speaking, and Brunhild begged him to stop. That's what Helmut told me. Not Helmut, sorry. Helmgut told me.
Helmut.
Oh, helmet.
All right, back round to Amalfrida. So it's coming towards the end of the meal. You've been chatting a lot here. You've learnt a decent amount. You can go and talk to Brunhild again. Helmgut didn't come here. Yeah, Brunhild is here. She's sitting near you. She's sitting with 3 women, and they're all fairly subdued.
Well, that's good, because so's Amalfrida. Yeah, she's going to go and join them and commiserate. Man, eh?
Dwarves.
Okay, you sit down with her. Give me 5 rolls. I guess you're just talking to her and seeing if the women are more effusive, and maybe she shared information with them that she didn't share with you. Wow, there's some. Oh, it's getting worse. 931. Oh, that's 13. Sorry, that's good. Yeah. All right.
I see.
That's improving.
That's much better.
That's
good finish.
Okay, so Amalfrida, maybe it's the feminine intuition or something, but she was asking about Rathvik and was he a good husband? And she actually sort of opens up. She looks kind of wistful and says, well, not especially, but he wasn't a monster either. She said, well, he and Oderic did quarrel, but Oderic fought with everyone in the village. And while she definitely loves her foster brother, he did have a talent for making enemies. But the overarching thing you kind of hear, and she looks really almost guilty, but she sort of shakes her head, and the person most to blame is me. I could have stopped that fight. I wish I had. No one needed to have died that day. So take of that what you will. But she did open up much more than when you were sitting at the graveside.
And she seems genuine.
Yeah, she seems to be, and the other women are sort of nodding, and one puts an arm on a hand on her arm, and they're kind of comforting her a bit. Okay, Hathis, coming towards the end of the evening.
I'll try and catch up with, is it Ada or Ava or?
Yeah, Ava, AVA.
Ava, and I'll try and have a sort of a semi-official conversation with about sort of who found the body, who were the first people into the scene, as it were. What was the wound? Was the wound a dagger wound to the chest? Was it a thrust up, a thrust down? Why were there any sword wounds? If these guys are great sword fighters, why is the man stabbed to death? That kind of thing. So much more forensic about the scene and who saw what, and trying to really unpick the scene rather than just rumours and gossip.
Okay, so a few people go, well, he was stabbed, wasn't he? And I look at each other. You think that may be a pretty unlikely line of questioning, but give me 5.
Well, it's broader than just was he stabbed. It was, I guess, where exactly were people. It's a bit sort of by the CAD file, kind of where were people positioned in the room? Had there been signs of a struggle? Were there any other injuries on either party? That kind of thing. To really try and understand what happened in there. rather than just what he was stabbed, wasn't he? And also who saw the body, etc.
Okay, give me some rolls.
Rubbish. Even more rubbish. Bit of charge in
Getting
that.
better.
Completely rubbish. Fumbled. A bit better.
Okay. So that's
yep.
fine. Yeah. So you kind of learned that the only thing that you did learn that was new. So there didn't appear, from what people's knowledge of, and clearly none of them actually saw the scene. But from what they'd heard is that no one really knows what happened, but he was stabbed in the chest. But you did learn that it was a scream from Brunhild that drew Helmgut to investigate what was going on. They lived next door, so he would have been the first person on the scene. But he actually he overheard a scream from Brunhild that led him to go and see what was going on.
Okay.
So that's the only new bit of information.
Yep.
All right, Monin.
He's kind of exhausted what he wants to be asking, I think, really. I think he knows enough now that we don't know quite enough. I suppose he'd ask about Oderic. When he wasn't in town, did he go any hunting? Did he stay overnight in any places nearby? Or if they can't get anything out of that, maybe are there places nearby where, like caves or anything that people can take shelter in storms so they don't make it back to the village?
Okay.
Yeah, nice idea. So give me 5 rolls. I'll kind of fill you in a bit. So people say, yeah, there are definitely places you can hide. There's some crofts, like half a day away. People are stuck out of the village for a little while, both south and north of here, and they can describe that, describe where they are. We don't really go west of the river too much, so can't really help you on that side. So that's kind of what you find out roughly about potential geography to hide in. It's pretty, I wouldn't say desolate, but it's pretty open, sort of scrub and moorland, dotted trees, not like the sort of place where you get plenty of cave formations and things. And so you don't really find out that much new. I think you've kind of known this from a roundabout route, but you did find out that Oderic hated Rathvik because he took a place in Oderic's. He took Oderic's place, in Helmgut's heart. So it's very clear that Rathvik and Oderic, from what you're hearing, is that there was some real animosity between them. But you don't know exactly the reason why that could have been, but you've got lots of angles to go at. Okay, and last but not least, Sigmar. People are winding up. There's plates being taken up to the table at the top of the room and things.
Yeah. I have no idea where he's going with this. Just God knows, just go around handing everybody, and lovely evening. So wonderful to spend time with you. Since anybody that's not really spoken much yet, he's going to try and concentrate on them.
Yeah, the only new piece of information you found out, really. Oh, sorry. Give me a roll, just in case you screw it up. You're doing pretty well with. Give me 5 rolls.
I can screw things up.
Inadvertently, not deliberately, obviously.
See, I'm doing it. Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, so you.
Oh yeah, savage.
So short of spilling more mead and beer down, like dump a half of mouthful.
One of those rolls was
a
history roll.
One
of those was a history roll. Yeah, I actually got 4 + 2 6, 4 + 3 7.
Oh yeah, good point.
It doesn't matter. I don't think that's going to help the outcome. You did find out that Oderic was a bit of a berserk occasionally, but the whole fighting madness left him when he realised what he'd done, and that was why Helmgut could have subdued him so easily. That's a kind of new bit of information you learned.
So if we're to unpick this, is anybody any the wiser?
Not particularly.
There was a rivalry.
Well, you've confirmed the rivalry. The only lead and probably the most useful information you got was before dinner. Even it was probably when she'd let on that she'd seen her brother recently and had gone. He told her he was heading west across the river. Probably the most useful information you've got.
We don't have to solve it, do we? We're just taking Oderic back.
Yeah, I mean, it's very useful information to know. So, I mean, you obviously made some notes about this, but sorting out the wheat from the chaff of that, what's opinion, what's fact, is going to be tough. Who was at fault? Who was there mitigating circumstances? All those kind of things. Which one of the two people in the room who were still alive actually plunged the dagger into him? Those kind of things. A little uncertain. Okay, so evening winds down. Ava comes up and gives Monin a bit of a strange look and says, "Thank you for your nice story," in a bit of a staccato. Doesn't really believe a word of what she's saying thing to Monin, and then says, "Well, it's getting late, and everyone's starting to leave, and you're welcome to stay here and to talk to people tomorrow if you need anything else. But hopefully you got some useful information out of that, and it'd be nice to put this all behind us." She kind of bids you farewell, and you head back out to your to the house you're staying in Oderic's old place.
Thank you, boys. Need to teach me how to tell tales.
Is it worth us keeping an eye on Brunhilde's place, or do we think that's just losing sleep for no reason?
Well, I think it'd be worthwhile.
I think there's a chance Oderic will be keeping an eye on her, and hence saying what's going on, who are these people, what's happening.
Is there anything that overlooks the village that we can see?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite near the old hill that kind of rises up the back with the ruined watchtower on the top. Definitely overlooks it. It would have been a watchtower for the river, and the kind of village grew up at the base of it. So that'd be the obvious place.
That might be quite a nice little vantage point.
So in the morning, maybe we could go to the watchtower, check it out. If he's not there, then maybe we could set our own watch there and watch over her house.
In the morning?
Well, you don't do too well when you're walking around in the dark, like, you know.
That's true.
I mean, if you're happy, I'm happy to do it now.
I guess it depends how dark and how dark it is out there right now.
Everyone give me an insight check in the tower. Amalfrida, who spent longest with Brunhild, gets a sense that the tale she was telling about, and this is something she didn't re-confide in her, but she seemed very genuine. And the tale she said about her brother leaving and never coming back, that you got a sense that was one of the reasons she was as upset, not just the death of her husband, but that she would never see her brother again. That was very, very real. So you would suspect you're not going to...
He's gone and ain't coming back.
He's gone. He's not coming back here. He's kind of heavy heart left the village.
Okay. So maybe we don't need to keep a watch on Brunhild in case he comes back to her in the night then.
No tree.
And we could try and track him tomorrow. Well, it's been peeing down with rain all day, but we maybe try and track. But there's going to be too many footprints around her place, and riddles in the dark. Yeah, there's more than a pipeful to think about here.
Yeah.
And you're trudging back through the rain, as ever, on your way back to the town. You decide, I think, to not trudge around in the rain up Wild Goose Chase up hills and decide to just spend the night sleeping. Only firm lead you've got is that he crossed the river west. Don't know what happened after that. Don't know how he crossed the river west, but that's probably the best lead you've got. And it may only be that Oderic's going to be able to really help clarify some of the rumours you learned.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think before we turn in for the night, might be a good bit of a chat about what we're going to do tomorrow. Are we going to get up early and just start tracking Oderic and just sort of leave this place and just keep on his trail?
So how long ago was he here?
She said, what?
3 days ago, quite recently.
Pretty cold trail for a town.
We've tracked him pretty well so far, haven't we?
Yeah, we can do.
I don't think this place is going to have the answers as to where he is. And since we're tasked with finding him rather than tasked with solving the riddle, solving the mystery, our job is find him, bring him back. And obviously, any information we have might help, but I suspect Beorn will be able to get to the bottom of this better than us.
Well, think about
job.
Nothing we've learned in talking to these people has given us any clues as to where he might have gone, has it?
Correct. No.
It's all about what happened, which kind of...
Yes.
Considering we've got so many conflicting opinions, we still don't know what happened.
No. So that's what I'm saying. Is maybe we just leave this place tomorrow first light and just try and pick up his trail and try and progress that way.
Well, think about it this way, right? He's going west, and there's two places across those mountains, the high pass and the mountain pass.
Now you're thinking.
High pass is closest. We could head as quickly as we could to the high pass because we know he's got to go through that way first. I can maybe speak to travellers along the road.
Yep.
Do we know much about the mountain pass?
You're there. So if you look at the immediate geography, West Anduin Vales is directly west of the river. Now, you, Hathis, and Amalfrida are all kind of aware of that. West Anduin Vales are truly wild. So south of the old forest road, the land is much more difficult than it was in the East Middle Vales, which is much more populous. So the western part of the district is dominated by rolling hills, and the east, as you come up to the mountains, the eastern part is rush-cloaked marshes and thickets, and it becomes more and more treacherous as you get down towards the River Gladden. And there's sort of a forest there, which is basically hardly anyone ever enters. You know that's just not a place men go. It's wild, dangerous, rumours of monsters, bandits, all sorts of things you hear from that wood.
So it's likely he would avoid that. And
that's one interpretation.
And that's that stand of trees that we can see sort of like in the L shape of just above the Gladden Fields.
Yeah, that area there. It's wild, fairly densely forested area. Not widely travelled by Beornings or woodmen. It's avoided. It's marshy to the west of the river, especially as you get further south towards the River Gladden. It's a fairly uninhabited part of the Vales.
And what do we know about the mountain pass? Do we know if that's passable?
It's rare you meet someone who's been through any of the passes. People tend to stick east of the mountains. You think it's, especially for a Beorning, to go west, unlikely if he is a Beorning.
But what was he saying to her? Wasn't he saying that he was going to go west?
So she said he's going to go west across the river, but you don't know how far west that would be.
Mm-hmm. Might just be to make his living in that deserted area and not feel nobody goes there, and he's a pretty good sort. He might be a hermit-like existence over there. We just don't know.
Yeah, okay. So maybe tomorrow it would be a matter of just checking the West Bank, just because I'm assuming there's only a few places it could be forded.
Yeah, I mean that that place it's got the name of the Wolf's Wood, which is why that's probably why people don't go in it. The area between the Wolf's Wood and the Gladden Fields is very marshy. That whole kind of confluence of the Gladden and the Anduin is very boggy land. There are people that live there, fishermen basically, very hardy folk, and they tend to live in houses on stilts, built above the water in the marshes there. Not bothered by much, because who wants to go and fight people in swamps? But it's, again, going to be tough going if you travel further south than the Wolfwood, which is on a rise. I'll give you a bit of information about the West Anduin Vales. Not been there yet, but you kind of do remember this. So that's links now shareable for the West Anduin Vales if you want to have a look at that.
So I think we need to scout around tomorrow, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, Hathis, you do know that the woodmen of Woodman Town and Woodland Hall have sworn oaths to the woodmen who live in Mountain Hall, which is kind of between the High Pass and Mountain Pass. So if he had contacts, he may have gone there, because they have sworn oaths to support each other and help each other in times of war. But that's a long shot. Demographics, West Anduin Vales, because especially as you get close to the mountains, it's not unusual to encounter orcs there. It's very sparsely populated.
And that's where we'll leave this rather lengthy episode. Next episode will see us creep into the eerie Wolfwood. Thanks for listening or watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for being you. Blech. Happy adventuring. Cheers. Catch you next time.